I gotta say, I like being 6 feet away from you. I know you can't swing and do a punch now. Quite from here.
It is to your right.
I know.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 6th meeting. And I have to say, just welcome back. At least it's we're here as a group. Something different. It's something that we haven't had 3.5 months or so. So I first order of business. I'll ask the have a roll call, please.
Mayor Patricelli.
Present.
Councilman Torricello.
Present.
Councilwoman Dodd.
Present.
Okay, I'll ask everybody if they would mind please standing. We'll pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask you to read the minutes of the previous meeting.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes from the July 9th and the July 29th meetings.
I'll second that motion, Your Honor.
If there's no objection, then we'll have a roll call, please.
Councilman Torricello.
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond.
In favor?
Mayor Patricelli.
In favor. I think the first order of business will be a reading of a proclamation. Is that what we're going to do? So I want to read a proclamation that was prepared, and this by no means is anywhere near the sense of gratitude and reflects anything else other than just pure generosity by the part of Scott Earl and his company. So I'd like to read this proclamation on behalf of the city of Watervliet. Whereas Scott Earl was raised in Watervliet, New York, and is a graduate of Watervliet High School. And whereas Scott began his career in waste business at the age of 15. In 1990, he started County Waste with one truck and grew the company into a multi-million-dollar operation. And whereas Scott is a successful businessman with generosity, donates to organizations, charities, and communities that hold a special place in his heart. And whereas Scott's donation of a new garbage truck to the city of Watervliet is just one example of his commitment to the local community. Now, therefore, I, Charles B. Patricelli, Mayor of the City of Watervliet, New York, do hereby recognize Scott Earl for his generous donation to the City of Watervliet and for his commitment to the organizations and communities as a whole. And I further proclaim that August 6, 2020 is Scott Earl Day in the City of Watervliet. Scott, thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. I know it's just a token, I can't possibly think of anything else. You would never. You want to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Very proud to have been born and raised in the city, and the city always held a special place in my heart. As I move towards retirement, I'm actually going to move into Green Island, on the edge of the city, and Starbuck Island. So I'll be in the city walking and riding my bike every day.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to say that I'm lucky enough. I graduated from high school. I graduated in the same class as Scott, and we reconnected a couple years ago. And his love for this city shone through so brightly. I know that he travels up and down this city whenever he can. He knows every business. He knows every house. He knows every alley. He knows everything, about the city. And the city of Watervliet's been dealt a little bit of a tough blow because of the national health crisis, but no worse than any other city or town in the whole country. We're on the same level as everybody. But this administration, I know, has big plans to renovate the city, to rejuvenate the downtown, to, pump life into the business district. And we're going to rely on Scott Earl. We've had some conversations, and we're really going to rely on people like Scott Earl, and especially Scott, in his expertise in development. Scott, I hope moving forward, you can be, we can count on you, and you can embrace it, and you can really work with the city and work with the mayor, to push this administration and really benefit the city of Watervliet and everybody in the in attendance and everybody in the city. Okay, so we're looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You look younger than,
Yeah, about 3 minutes younger.
yeah, 3 minutes younger. And please don't give us your, apartment numbers. We'll be over there now.
I know.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank
very
you. And
much.
John, thanks very much for your coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next order of business will be report of officers and committees.
All right, if I could go first, line here. As you know, at our last council meeting, we had an executive session. We talked a little bit about the furloughed employees. We are. I'm sorry.
Turn your
Can't hear it
mic
again. This is loud. I think we're gonna go.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to bring back the furloughed employees that went out in early May. They're going to start back on August 10th, Monday, August 10th. They'll be back in the DPW department and sanitation department. You know that we did do a Save Our Small Business funding grant program for the businesses in the city of Watervliet. To date, we have 8 applicants. 8 businesses apply for that grant. We are meeting collectively on Tuesday of next week to review those applications and have selections by the end of that week as well. With the proclamation here today, WNYT actually did a nice soundbite on the radio the other day, Wednesday morning, and talked about Clinton Avenue, the dog park that we had, and of course Scott with the sanitation truck. We had a kickoff meeting where we kicked off the meeting for our park inventory study with Jason just the other day, going through looking at our parks, getting an inventory as to what needs to be done, what parts are tired, and what we may need to go forward. That's actually going to be connected to our downtown revitalization study. So if there's any comments from the council, I'd like to have those in by Tuesday of next week. I know we've got a couple of them in thus far. And lastly, the trees in Hudson Shores Park. We went through a bid process where Davy Trees, Advantage, and C&D Tree Company, right here from Watervliet, we're looking at 32 trees within the park that needed to come down. All that were dead and infested with the elm bug. And we awarded that to C&D, and they started removing a couple of the trees already by the pavilion that were in danger of falling there. And hopefully before fall, those trees will be done as well.
So are they doing some trees a little at a time, or is?
Yeah, the intent on that is to try to get the 2 that were an imminent threat right over the pavilion, to take those down immediately. The idea that we had, and for in fact all of them, would prefer to take everything down in the fall, so the leaf off is around all the trees, make it easier. Right.
We have the 9th Avenue water project, that service line replacement program. We'll be doing the final walkthrough for the construction phase. And then we'll probably here toward the end of the month for paving the second 9th Avenue from 19th Street to 16th Street. And then that paving will extend down 9th Avenue to 15th Street and then back up Gavin Way back to 16th Street. So the bids, the accepting one bid tonight on the agenda. And then the bike path project, I'm sure as everybody has seen or got caught in the traffic at some point or another. We extended the binder coat down to right around the Cotton Street Bridge, the area program, Cotton Street Bridge. Before. And then may extend that depending on how that topic goes. We have conversations with some of the vendors in the area, the businesses, to make sure that they aren't adversely affected. Honestly, I think they probably get more of a benefit from the project than any adverse effects. We're going to have the tree committee come through with one of the arborists that's connected to the project, and they're actually going to put native species trees that are conducive to the area, not overwhelming the area with more oak trees, trying to get different variety of trees that are still native to the area, and make that they're actually going to say what tree goes where as part of the project to replace some of the trees that we've taken down. And we're going to be moving towards the second phase of the lead service line replacement program. We don't know if we're going to make this construction season or not. It may not be until next, but we have to have some conversations with the state and see how ready they are moving forward. We are very far ahead of the game when it comes to the lead service line project. Other municipalities who have applied for it and have received grants, they're not even in a shovel-ready status yet. We've got our first phase done. So everybody else is kind of playing catch up to us. So I think the state wants to make sure that we don't far ahead, that they kind of keep everybody a little closer to pace. I think other than that, well, yeah.
Hey, Mark, how about the chain link with respect to the bike path? That chain link fence, still a lot of weeds and a lot of growth and a lot of things. Is somebody going to take care of that? Is Louise going to take care of that, or is that the state property?
Yeah, it's not our fence. The fence belongs to the state, so it actually belongs to DOT. But one of the intricacies is that it actually goes to Rensselaer County DOT, not Albany County DOT. So we've asked them to replace the fence. I mean, we've got a $2 million bike path that's going in, and we've got that brand new fence there. So they said they would give it some attention. What they meant by that was they would push it back up and tie it to the top crossbar again. We've talked to DOT to see if we can get some kind of replacement for that, but we haven't been given any assurance.
I mean, can the state come in and at least weed it or clean it out or something like that? Even I know it's an old crappy fence, but.
Right. Unfortunately, they do, but it's only once a year.
Yeah. All right.
They did a large section of it from 23rd Street, pretty much down a little bit past the bridge going south, and then they stopped. They keep telling me, well, maybe the best time to do it is in the fall. Fall comes and goes, and you end up going round and round with them all the time. They've done something. You just got to keep on their back.
I like the idea of a new fence, obviously incredibly expensive, probably.
Well, do we think maybe that now it would be more of a safety issue to have some kind of a, a new fence put up, maybe like a really nice brick retaining wall that isn't, super high or anything, because now there will be people riding their bike right along and walking right along 787. So
Yeah, I mean, we thought, the fact that Joe was coming here, we would get a similar fence to what they had on Interstate 87, right around the Siena College exit. 12-foot wall, but, we've asked for improvements to the fence that is there to start with. And we really can't get maintenance out of them. I don't know how we get maintenance out of them.
Nobody thought that was a safety issue, that just chain link fence right near cars that are going.
Yeah, but they always say that the guardrail is really the safety. The guardrail. We tried.
cars,
to be-
does that guardrail really prevent a car from going onto Broadway? I'm just curious. It doesn't look like it's strong.
No, I mean, in our, a couple cars come on Broadway that are involved in traffic accidents. Unfortunately,
There is no old business this evening.
Then we'll move into new business.
The first order of new business is ordinance number 2029. It's an ordinance approving and confirming the sale of 2112 4th Avenue, Watervliet, New York, 12189.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move on ordinance number 2029.
I'll second that.
Okay, but I believe before we can have a vote, we need to read the environmental assessment form for the they call it the seeker.
Seeker, that's correct.
The seeker. All right, and to see whether or not, as part of the sale of this property, there's an adverse effect on the environment. So, you bear with me, there's 11 items that we have to look at. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? And the answer would have to be sale of the property would be no. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use of intensity or the use of the land? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Oh, we're hoping that would improve it. No, so the answer would be no. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of the critical environmental area? The answer to that would be no. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? That would be no. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation and renewable energy opportunities? That would be no. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? No. And with the public or private watershed treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will adverse change in natural resources, for example, the wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora or fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in increased potential for the erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No. And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. With those answers being no, it's been determined that based on the information analysis of the supporting documentation, that proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mayor, if I just may say a couple words, so the public is aware of the nature of the proposed ordinance, and I believe our general manager would also like to say a few words. So, just a little bit of a timeline. Back in June 30th, June 18th, Council adopted ordinance number 2026 regarding wholesale of 2112 4th Avenue in the city of Watervliet. In that ordinance, it authorized the advertisement of the sale of the property and authorized a public hearing. There was a public hearing that was held on July 9th, and also the public auction was held by our general manager here on July 16th, and there was a successful bidder. So this ordinance, ordinance number 2029, does a few things. It determines that this proposed sale is an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and that it will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact. It designates a successful bidder, and it approves and confirms the sale of the property to the successful bidder, and then it authorizes Mayor Charles B. Patricelli to execute and deliver a purchase contract to the successful bidder, and conveying title to the successful bidder. So if this sale is confirmed, the mayor will execute the contract. Then subsequent, we'll have a closing where the successful bidder will pay the remainder of the purchase price. The minimum bid was $21,066.52. There was at the sale a portion of the advertising cost. So the contract is $21,316.52. But we did get the invoice for the advertising cost, so the final purchase price would be $21,501.20. So I believe those are all the pertinent details with respect to the ordinance, and our general manager would like to add anything.
Yes, thank you. This council under section, or the ordinance 2026, there were several conditions, or the property had to, in order for the property to be sold, the bidders were supposed to follow several criteria. One of which, Mayor, you and I even had a conversation on regarding the requirements of the bidders to bring in stamped engineered plans towards that. So I just want to read for the record what he was to do, and the fact that we struck that requirement at the time of the auction. Letter E under section 2 read, on the date of the public auction of the property, but prior to commencement of the sale by the general manager, as a condition proceeded to bid on the property, all applicants will be required to submit to the general manager their proposed rehabilitation plans for the property, along with their licensed engineer site plans for the rehabilitation. We know we had a licensed engineer do something for the city in order to rehab the property. We took those and gave those to the bidders. And then we did say then and stipulated that if any changes were over and above what we had given them, they would then have to file the proper permits and update the plans properly. So.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'll ask for roll call.
Councilman Torricella?
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Patricella?
In favor.
Next order of business is resolution number 9763. It's a resolution approving, ratifying, and confirming the execution by Mayor Charles V. Patricelli of a memorandum of agreement between the County of Albany and the City of Watervliet for trimming of overgrowth and painting of directional arrows.
Mayor, I make a motion that we move on the resolution.
I'll second that.
This was a memorandum that the mayor entered into with the County of Albany. It was to do specific work, and some of that work actually did already happen. It was a trimming of the overgrowth in Hudson Shores Park, and they're soon to look at painting the yellow directional lines along 23rd Street.
Can I do the fence at 178?
Talk.
It's
Yeah, the directional lines is between Second Avenue and I believe it's Broadway, right? That's the area that they're planning on, right?
City off-ramp.
City off-ramp? Okay. So that's the area that they're looking at. And what they did was they came in with some of their specialized equipment and trimmed along the shoreline of the Hudson River there by the Hudson Shores Park, so that actually people now you actually could set up the pavilion and actually see the river. Prior to that, we were lucky enough to see part of Troy. If that was
Mayor, is there a cost to the city for that
No.
service?
No.
So that was an agreement that you just made with the county?
is
Great, really great.
so it was very good. They've been very helpful and very accommodating to almost anything that we've been asking them to help us with. They understand the position we're in, and they're more than willing to help. So I appreciate that. Everybody, their DPW, General Services, the employee, and all their staff. So thank you. All right, call the roll.
Councilman Torricella?
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Patricella?
In favor.
Resolution number 9764 is a resolution approving and authorizing the issuance and advertisement of request for proposals for the purpose of soliciting proposals for consultant services to the City of Watervliet for a feasibility study in connection with the Watervliet-Troy Counter Street Bridge Zone waterfront access and connectivity study between the City of Watervliet and the City of Troy.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I'll second that.
This resolution 9764 is the sister resolution to resolution number 9512 back in 2018 that the council approved at that time based on the Department of State putting out to all coastal communities along the rivers the idea to prepare and look at a local waterfront revitalization program. We then entered into an agreement with the City of Troy to work collaboratively, we being the lead on this project. And right now, we're at the point where we have a RFP, and in that, the City of Watervliet will be looking for items to consider, but not be limited to improve safety and effective access to Hudson Shores Park in the 23rd Street area, traffic reconfigurations and recommendations right in the Watervliet Bridge Zone, which can be lane reductions, traffic calming, or intersection improvement, We're looking at pedestrian-friendly intersection improvements and signage along with ADA accessibility. Improvement on our bike lanes that Mark was successful with. Establish and protect multi-use paths to the bridge, and look at significant lane configurations and traffic signal improvements along the 23rd Street Broadway area.
All right, so this sounds to me like this is all gonna be part and parcel of, with the downtown revitalization initiative and the bike path, and the parks program. Is Chazen gonna be either part of this, or at least are they gonna be aware of it? Or are they, in other words, I don't, both, it should be working together, not. Oh,
Jason will have the opportunity to bid.
Okay.
To put in the proposal.
Okay.
On the job, as it has to follow that requirement.
Okay.
But the fact that they have that firsthand knowledge of the DRI, what they're doing in Troy,
Right,
collaboratively with they're
are
downtown.
they working into, they're working into
in
their,
Troy as well.
okay,
So they have a lot of the studies already done, so they could come in hopefully with
okay.
less expensive
Right.
than the others.
So now, since Troy is involved, are we looking at like, did I read something about easier access to Troy and Troy to Watervliet, something like that? How?
Well, what Troy is planning on doing, I don't know if Steve is here or not, I don't see him from the city. One of the things that Troy is looking to do is, if you remember those apartment buildings, just as you come over.
Tower apartments.
Yeah,
That was,
right.
yeah, was one of my questions. Are they?
Those are coming down. Those will be demolished. They'll be looking at making parkland settings. They're also looking at putting some apartments towards the back end, multi-use there. But actually improving and tightening accesses to their streets as well.
Okay.
So we're hoping to do the same here. When this first went out, it's a $170,000 grant, in which $30,000 will be the match between both. So each municipality will be required a $15,000 match. But when it first went out, it only talked about an individual from Watervliet, was one a connector to go down
So that's
to Hudson Shores Park, stairway connector. Put the brakes on that a little bit and said, let's look at this really from a holistic approach and what really is manageable and what will actually get an outcome for. And we came up with the bullet point, which is right into the record.
So since we're taking the lead on this, the city of Troy then is not putting out an RFP with this is for.
For both municipalities, we'll have them reviewing of the, the selection process. And then, but we also each have our milestones that we're trying to attend.
Sounds good.
Thank you, that's not good.
Sounds good. Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll ask clerk to call the roll.
Councilman
In
Torricella?
favor?
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Patricella?
In favor.
Next order is resolution number 9765. It's a resolution accepting the bid contract to furnish milling and asphalt paving for the Watervliet main replacement, 9th Avenue paving phase, Castle LLC, with an address of 1 Madison Street, Suite 200, Troy, New York, 12180, in the amount of $60,100. The lowest responsible bidder in conformance with the specifications, and authorizing and directing Mayor Charles V. Patricelli to execute a contract between the City of Watervliet and Newcastle Paving LLC.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on the resolution.
I'll second that.
Yeah, so this just, pretty much buttons up the lead service line project on 9th Avenue. Like I said, we're gonna have a walkthrough tomorrow, and, I think we slated paving to begin. Project will be completed no later than August 28th. They're probably pushing that deadline, but we're hoping probably by the end of next week, they have a good time frame in mind to schedule everything. Get this moving forward, so it'll be inch and a half mill and fill. Basically what happens is they send a machine down the roadway, they take an inch and a half to walk. And then they build it back up so it's level and ready to do all the iron work, make sure that everything's up to snuff. We're also gonna have, an inspecting engineer on the project as well, to make sure that we do the manhole, the turn offs, sewer taps, everything the way we should.
Hey, Mark, I know Mr. and Mrs. Clickner are here, and I had a conversation with them previously about the sharp edges on the curbing. And I think that was, you and I talked about it, or I think the council talked about it at one point. Is there any sort of, during the walkthrough, for instance, is there gonna be, particular attention paid to that?
Yeah, we're actually, Joel is actually, has a conversation with Newcastle to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're kind of putting ideas back and forth for the best way for us to finish not only the roadway, but the curving area to make sure it's level. Obviously, there's areas on Ninth Ave that have curve, that don't have curve. So when you're dealing with those situations, you're gonna run into, the areas where the curving is there, and then there's no curving, so how do we adjust the blacktop in that area to make sure it's compliant? So those are part of the conversations that we'll have with the local.
You're welcome. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nothing else, and I'll ask the clerk for.
Councilman Torrance,
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Mayor Patrichello.
In favor.
Resolution number 9766 is a resolution accepting the contracts for consulting and management support to the city of Watervliet for planning, administrative, and program delivery services for various state and federal grant programs to MFCS LLC with an address of P.O. Box 343, Watervliet, New York, 12189, and authorizing and directing Mayor Charles B. Patricelli to execute contracts between the city of Watervliet and MFCS LLC.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
And I'll second it.
Joe?
So council may remember, we were going through and we were actually looking to extend Mr. Murphy's contract that was under, or actually expiring towards the end of the year. And when we were looking to have the council do the 1-year extension, we then learned from the state of New York that we had to go through the process of going through a new RFP. But also during that process, we had to split that out to multiple proposals going out the door, as they didn't want to have all of the complements of services that we needed on just one proposal. That led to having 5 applicants or companies submit 3 separate proposals. In going through the review, I gave the review committee a memo of our review. You should have it in your packet as well. But there were 5 companies that applied. Mr. Murphy's contract was a standard fee of $110, waived and recalculated for this submission at $49 per hour versus the other ones, which were significantly higher at that point. So the recommendation after review, based on experience and knowledge of the city and awarding grants that they've received, Mr. Murphy was the winner of that bid.
Okay. Any questions? Clerk call the roll.
Councilman Torrance,
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Mayor Patrichello.
In favor.
The last order of new business this evening is resolution number 9767. It's a resolution accepting the fiscal year 2019 Assistance to Firefighters Grant award from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on the resolution.
And I'll second that.
Yeah, we just learned of this award. Mr. Tom Egan of our fire department, City of Watervliet Fire Department, wrote this grant to the Homeland Security. It was for defibrillating machines that were needed on a number of the trucks in EMS. It also came with funding for the training that goes along with these machines and the overtime needed. So that would be at no cost to the city, but there is a 5% match, right? Which actually came to be about $22,000, but based on the sale of the fire truck, that actually reduced it, and so no cost to the city at that point. So congratulations to Tom Egan, who wrote this grant. That's wonderful for the city. Equipment and the training necessary to operate such.
It's almost $500,000, right?
Right, the grant is like 480,000, well, the grant itself is what, 458,000, so it's really
$458,000,
a substantial amount of money. So it's great,
Really
great
great.
job.
Thank you, Tommy.
Okay. No, it's not here, but I mean, we did mention it to him.
Okay.
Publicly acknowledge that. So, ask the, no other questions, let's get call the roll.
Councilman Torrcello?
In favor?
Councilwoman Diamond?
Favor?
Mayor Patricek?
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes the new business for this evening's agenda.
Ready? Anything other in the county?
Nothing for this particular meeting.
All right, before we go into public comment, is there any comments or any questions from the council? I just,
Yeah, how did we make out with the storm? Seems like we made out okay, right? There were no,
depends on who you ask.
well, okay. Well, I mean, there are homes, including mine, who had a tremendous amount of water. But how did the city and did it, in other words, did the facilities that we have, could we handle
Well,
it?
I'll let Joe speak to it, but I do know the fire department said they had about 26, 27 calls that they went on, and I don't know how many of the public works went on, 5?
Yeah,
About
I mean,
5
it was
calls.
a massive amount of rain.
I've been in my house for, almost 30 years now, and, this is the first time I ever saw water a little bit in my basement. Not a lot, maybe a pot full, but it was the first time I ever saw water in my basement.
Right.
So, I know it's very unusual. I know a lot of sewer,
Yeah, we had 5 pump outs, as Mark mentioned, and there was a couple of surges here and there. I'm surprised we weren't as bad as what we were, because where I am, where that dry river connects through Swatland Road and all the way
Right.
down, it was flooding there onto Route 2, Swatland Road, that I would have assumed all comes this way, which it does, that we would have been worse than what we were. So luckily, pipes got to catch up to each other as they were breathing and as the rain started to dissipate. But I thought we were going to be in a lot worse shape down here.
That system that was put in place in 1910 or 1890 or whatever it was, it works, right? I mean, it really does. It's amazing.
the Civic Center had some leakage.
Yeah, the Civic Center had a small amount of damage in the basement area, but we reached out to our insurance agent.
All righty.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Well, we got through it.
Yeah.
Easier than the COVID in some respects, but.
I just wanted to mention that I read that the census workers are going to start their door-to-door census campaign soon.
Yes.
So is that something, maybe, can we put that on the city website, just so that our, residents are aware of that, just so that they've got a heads up that people might be, if they haven't done their census, people might be coming to the door.
Good idea. Yep. We have,
That's our sales tax numbers and our sales tax revenue, so please fill it out if you haven't already. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your family. Sorry.
No, that's okay, really, that's.
Before we go into public comment, I know acting chief is in the back. You wanted to say anything about the new patrolmen that are going through training?
Right off the road, right out there.
Thank you.
all right, then, I'll ask, Dave, please, announce for public, comment period.
At this time, the council has authorized a public comment period. We ask that if you step forward to the podium over there, state your name and address for the record, at which time you'll have 2 minutes to address the council on any items you wish.
Who would like to go first? There's no comments? Right, Susan? So, if there are no other comments,
I'm sorry, if I would ask respectfully for the council to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a litigation matter.
Okay. All
Uh,
right, then we'll close the public comment period, and then I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session.
And that would be the members of the council, our general manager, Mr. Lasavita, the mayor, myself.
George, can we close this meeting first, or do we?